Welcome back, everyone. Well, I have a confession to make. There's nobody I would rather talk politics with than my guest, Mark Westcott. I first met Mark, I think probably 10 years ago, Mark, and immediately just was so impressed with his desire and his passion. Serve the community. You may agree, you may disagree, right? You and I have agreed and disagreed over the years on many things, but always just to get the information out there. I always find that you're such a great conduit for that. So welcome back.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you.
Nice to have you here. For those of you that may have been living under a rock someplace, Mark is a former supervisor for Warren County and very involved and influential in a lot of the policy making in Warren County. Something caught my attention, which is why I called Mark in. This past weekend, I was watching the Queensbury Town Board meeting on Look TV, and a big debate, big conversation about the possibility that the form of government in Warren County should change from supervisor form of government to a legislative form of government. So I called Mark up right away because you've got a lot of knowledge about this. So setting the stage like that, I know you fall on the side of a legislative form of government. So let's start by just explaining how the two forms work.
All right, Jesse. Well, historically, counties in New York have had boards of supervisors. This changed dramatically in the 60s. There was a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision that enunciated the principle in the 14th Amendment of one person, one vote. And it was Reynolds versus Sims, and so there was this migration of counties to legislatures. Today, there are only 16 counties left with a board of supervisors. And what that means is that there's a supervisor from all the towns that are on the board. Now, some of the boards are a hybrid version like ours, where we also have at-large and ward supervisors. That's where it gets more complex. And so there's this weighted voting system at board meetings. A legislature would clean that all up into equally divided districts where the legislator would have one vote, equally both in the legislative meetings and the committee level.
Right. Just to support what he's saying there, I live in Glens Falls. We've got, it's divided by wards, where you have a supervisor and then there are supervisors at large. It is a weighted system, and the whole idea of one person, one vote is probably the essence of the legislative form of government. What you do here, though, and it was brought up in the meeting, that if the districts are laid out in a way that, let's say, Hague and Bolton Landing are both included in one district, that they wouldn't each have their own supervisor, there'd be one legislator for that district. How are both townships represented equally or properly?
Well, the town supervisor would remain as the town supervisor, which is where their focus and priorities are and should be. So they would focus on the town business. The legislator would be just like, say, a congressman or woman, where they would represent their whole district. They would get around, get to know the constituency, what the issues are, what the issues are in the various towns. But at the end of the day, what they would do is they would represent the best interests of Warren County as a whole.
I've got it. Is that the primary reason you support that form of government?
Well, it's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
The primary reason is I truly believe that, and my last act as a supervisor was I presented a motion to redress grievances in December to the board, and I declared the Board of Supervisors unconstitutional because I truly believe it does not fulfill the 14th Amendment principle of one person, one vote.
Well, tell me that isn't classic Mark Westcott. Go out with a bang, Mark.
Well, you know, go out with a bang, but also committed to research and study the issue.
Right,
I've written 2 papers on it and presented to the board since then.
You know what? I didn't mean to make light of
Oh,
it.
no,
but
no,
it just goes
true.
back to that passion thing I mentioned at the beginning of the interview. That's true. So as I recall, Kevin Garrity, they did put it before the board, and they voted not to act on that.
That's correct.
Now you've gone back again, correct?
We have. There's 4 of us that have agreed to, if necessary, go forward with filing a suit at federal court. We prefer not to do that, so as a last act, we went to the county attorney, Brian Reichenbach, and we presented our facts in our case and where we thought the county was vulnerable. Since that time, we have heard that Kevin Garrity, the chairman of the board, is going to go
He's
back
gonna
to
reconsider.
the, go
Yes,
to
that's right.
Yeah, reconsider with the board of supervisors,
Well, I
which I
think-
think is great.
Yeah, I think that's great also. So then the next step would be that the county would then form, I don't know whether it's a committee or not, but they would explore this issue. They'll probably do a study on this, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, most counties that go through this process, they form an independent citizen committee of some sort.
Right.
To study the issue and come back with hopefully what you would
Recommendation.
expect an
Yeah.
objective review. Of course, on both sides, we'll be skeptical on whether or not that will really be objective or not. But, that's the hope, and that's what I hope they do.
And assuming that all goes according to plan, then a referendum, would that be the next step?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you change your form of government, you have to get it approved by the state. And then once it's approved by the state, it goes to a vote of the populace.
Populace,
Yeah.
right. The electorate, we
Yeah.
get to vote on this in a referendum.
That's right.
It could be a special referendum, or it could be just part of the next election cycle, right?
Right, and we would hope it would just be part of the election cycle so that there's
Yeah.
not any additional expense.
I've got it. Oh, great, Mark. Thank you so much for coming in.
Always my
by the
pleasure.
way, we've reached out to John Strow and would like to have someone who sort of supports the supervisor form of government to come on and explain a little bit more about the benefits of that approach.
Excellent.
But in the meantime, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
When Mark comes in, we spend about an hour before we actually get to the set to spend 7 minutes talking about something.
Yeah.
But one last question, quick.
Okay.
We're out of time, but you and I both feel the same about Chris Gibson. He decided not to run for governor.
That's right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I've worked hard for Chris over the years, and I couldn't admire a person more.
I agree with you.
He called me up, and I went down to meet with him before he made the announcement, and I told him that I was 100% supportive and very happy for him and his family.
You and I feel the same about Chris. So wish Chris the best of luck, but
Thank
wish
you.
he was running for governor.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for coming
All right,
in.
thank you, Jesse.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.